Okay, it's time for the Celtic Pod right here on CLNS. We got Goodman, we got Ryan. Jeff, you're on the ledge.
I'm there. Listen, you've made your move so far with the coach and the general manager, and they're still in the same spot, which I said preseason, and a ton of fans jumped on me when I said this team is not going to be any better than it was last year or the part of the year before. It's the same. They have less talent to me. And I don't know if it's fair to judge Ime Udoka because you don't have a point guard still. You don't have ball movers. Right now, you're ninth. You're 2 games under 500. You just lost a game to the Minnesota Timberwolves without their 3 best players, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Anthony Edwards. And you didn't have Tatum, but you had Jaylen Brown. You had Al Horford. You had Robert Williams. You had more than enough to beat a team full of replacement players and reserves for a crappy Minnesota Timberwolves team anyway. And you lost this one. It is time, guys. It is time to admit this group together does not work. They have to make a move if you're Brad Stevens. I don't know what it is. I've said all along I would trade Jaylen Brown. Unfortunately, I think Jaylen Brown now, his trade value isn't quite as high as it was when I said to trade him a year ago. It's close, but I think it was at its peak about a year ago. And can you still get another superstar for him? Because I've said it over and over, and I wonder if people finally agree with me. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown still look like they've never played basketball together before.
Well, I don't know if you saw my State of the Teams column in the Sunday Globe, but my conclusion was the reluctant one. I surrender. I went over to your side. I've been fighting it. I said, no trading. No, this group has just got to play better, and they do have to find a point guard. I mean, there's a real point guard. But I surrender, and I publicly surrendered already, and I'm going to do it for a second time in a different format. I've surrendered in print, and now I am surrendering on real life that it isn't working. And I called them annoying, and they're
frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, when they go ahead, I go, oh my God, no, please don't go ahead, because this means you're going to blow the lead. Right. I mean, 19 points on Sunday, Saturday, another 11-point lead. But it's just, I surrender. I give up. They're JAT guys, just another team, and nothing special. And,
so what would you do if you're Brad Stevens? What would you do? Would you, again? Let's say you can't get enough for Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, which is probably the case. Let's be honest. Their trade value isn't high enough. I think people in Boston think Robert Williams is something he's not. And Marcus Smart, same thing, for $20 million a year. I don't know if you're going to get enough out of those two. Do you wait it out and see if you can pull a third free agent at some point here, which doesn't look likely? Or do you say, you know what? We got to make a move. We got to see what Jaylen Brown's worth.
I mean, you're resolute. It can't be Tatum. All right,
I will not trade Jason Tatum.
All right,
I will not trade Jason.
I'm getting a little frustrated with when you see him at his best. You go, oh God, no, and then you see him at the wrong times, dribbling, doing the wrong. That turnover on Saturday at that, I get exasperated at times with Tatum. I see the good, but the not so good the time, and that turnover he had, particularly near the end, at the end of that Milwaukee game, was Antoine Walker redux, dribbling into traffic, losing the ball at the wrong moment, and causing a costly turnover.
I feel like the problem is when you don't have anybody to make life easier for him, he feels like he's got to do too much, and he shouldn't be put in that position. Now, again, does he need to make better decisions? Absolutely. There's times when he makes boneheaded plays, but if you had a point guard that could make his life easier, or have anybody give him the ball in a spot where he could be more successful. Like if you watch Jaylen Brown, I feel like and Marcus Smart, same thing. They may get assists, but if you watch where they get guys the ball, especially when Marcus Smart delivers the ball to a shooter, Jason Tatum a lot has to catch it up here or down here by his knees. It's not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just go for Jason Tatum. That goes for everybody on the team. They don't move the ball well. And then when they do move the ball, it's not like when Larry moved the ball. when Larry moved the ball, he would get it to you exactly where you needed it to Kevin or to Robert running the floor to be able to score easily. He made everybody. It was so much easier. Nobody does that on this team.
I'm not going to hold anyone to those standards. Okay. Right. That particularly, I mean, and I'm so glad you pointed out when he's talking about greatest passing forwards, it's still Larry. It is not LeBron. Larry made these entry passes because nobody needs to make. Anyway, all right. Anyway, but he's got to be better. But I'll still fall short of holding him to that standard. But that's the ideal. I was thinking as we were talking about point guards, and every time I see him, most of the times when I see him, and I see him do what he does, you say, God, this is a textbook, and that's Chris Paul. This is a textbook about how to run that position. How there's better athletes. There've always been better athletes, but there aren't better thinkers. There aren't better intuitive
pick and roll
point guards.
Pick and roll. He's beautiful
than Chris Paul. And he's if I were a coach and I were a high school coach, college coach, that's the videos for my point guards that I would want to have shown would be Chris Paul.
Well,
Gary, what do you do?
What's that?
You trade Jaylen Brown? Do you trade Jaylen Brown? What do you do?
Yeah, I was ready to do, guys. I was ready to trade him for Simmons because I thought from the beginning this was a desperate situation. I just feel that Celtic fans and some of the members of the Celtic media, present company excluded, it's just, well, you put on the Celtic uniform and Danny Ainge is the GM, then you're going to turn to gold. And he did it with Kevin Garnett, and that was great. But just because Jason Tatum was a third overall pick, that doesn't mean he's going to be the second coming. To me, he's the same player he was in college. And Jeff, you talked about it. I remember you said this, and Bob was right. I remember this. Bob said Tatum's the best guy to take in the draft. And if you go back and look at it, he was the best one for the Celtics to pick. We know that, Fultz, whatever. He's the same guy. When you're 19, he needs to be more of a leader. He needs to be more of the guy. He needs a little bit of Ja Morant in him. I mean, if Jason Tatum had the same intestinal fortitude as Ja Morant, forget it. They don't have it.
Differently. He came up differently.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are sub-premier players. And they think they're premier players.
Yeah, I think Tatum's premier. I got
to see it, though, Jeff, because I don't think he has the balls that Morant has. I mean, he has no balls. He disappears.
I'm not going to dispute. I think Ja Morant is a tougher, again, grown up differently, went to Murray State.
I know.
Now Tatum, it's crazy because Tatum didn't grow up like he grew up, his mom was tough with him. So, but again, Tatum, since he was 15, 16 years, has told how good he was. He's been the area that Tatum needs to get better at, to me, is not disappearing, not taking poor shots, not complaining to the refs as much as he has. I've said this with Bob since we started this pod 3 years ago. He's gotten no better at it. Well, maybe a little bit better, but not enough.
He's more concerned with Subway commercials.
See, I think I don't think because we don't see him show a lot of emotion, I think you look at it as he doesn't care. I think he cares. It's just the new age players. Ja's a little bit different. Okay. He didn't grow up in that group of AU basketball where they're all kissing each other's ass and hanging out with each other. Ja was kind of on the secondary circuit.
Right.
He was always the guy that wasn't invited into the big boy games. So he's different. Dylan Brooks is different. Some of these guys that we've talked about with Memphis are different than Tatum. I think the bottom line is, I think you've had a coach who hasn't held them accountable enough in Brad Stevens. You've had poor leadership around Jason Tatum that hasn't shown him the right way over the years. There's been nobody there. I mean, who did he grow up?
Kyrie was detrimental. I mean,
Gordon Hayward.
He'll go out to dinner with Kyrie after a Nets game. He doesn't care.
Gordon Hayward was never a leader. Like, that's not Gordon.
Okay. All right. So what do you do? All right. To me, Bob, it's all on Wick. And no one has called out the owner. It's on the owner. Wick, you've had a good run. You won the championship. Everybody loves you. But this is now, Bob Kraft did it. Bob said to Belichick, Bob Kraft said to the greatest coach in the history of pro football, you're on notice, and you had one bad year. It's on record.
I mean, listen, again, to me, it's no longer about, and it is, because we don't know, Brad Stevens has moved so far. He's had his hands tied a little bit. What did he do? He got rid of Kemba, got rid of one bad contract, brought in another for Al Horford. He hasn't done enough. I think he did enough to kind of con people into feeling like they made these major moves when they really haven't.
And again, the Marcus Smart contract was a joke.
Yeah, but I think they felt like they had to give him it or else they were going to lose him for nothing. And hopefully you can trade him and Robert Williams and get something. But I still say the biggest problem you have two all-stars. Tatum's an all-star. Jaylen Brown to me is still a fringe all-star. Like, I think on a certain year he makes it, but he's in that 20 to 40 group of players in the NBA. I feel like at some point you've got to say to yourself, these two do not work great together. Let's see if we can bring in, as you said, Gary, can we bring in Ben Simmons and more? Can we get Ben Simmons at his lowest possible value right now and
Why not?
more? But you got to get more. You can't just – Jaylen Brown's contract is terrific right now. You don't think – listen, Daryl Morey would do that trade in 2 seconds right now. If you said Ben Simmons for Jaylen Brown, that'd be done in 2 seconds. They got to sweeten it with something really good. I don't know what that is other than draft picks.
You know how I feel about Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I
you
know.
hate him. You hate him.
I'm he's not – talk about accountable, not accountable to himself. No, I don't want any part of Ben Simmons. I don't want any part of a guy that refuses to improve his game. I don't want any part of a alleged point guard that has to be removed from a playoff game because he's shooting 34% from the line and he won't take a shot when he has to take a shot, and he has never worked to get an outside shot. You want this guy? I don't care how many all defensive teams he makes. I don't care how many all-star games they put him in for whatever goddamn reason. I don't want him until he matures enough to.
Well, what if you somehow had Ben Simmons with Tatum and Beal in a year? And you said Ben Simmons doesn't need to score that much with those two. And you're right. I mean, listen, I'm as concerned as anything about taking on Ben Simmons because he has not gotten better since I first saw him when he was 15 years old. 15 years old. The dude's 24 now, and he's gotten no better shooting the back. I get it. All I'm saying is it's not working. Yeah, I'd rather have Dame Lillard. Obviously.
Oh, God, yeah.
I'd rather have Dame Lillard if you can get him. What I'm saying is you have to go out there if you're Brad Stevens today and find out what is the market for Jaylen Brown. What is it?
How about this, Jeff? What's the market for everybody?
Like, you seriously, find out the market for everybody.
Tatum. This is what I do. If I was Wick, I would go to Brad and I'd say, okay, my head's going to get real big in the camera now because I'm serious. But no, I mean, I would say to Wick, I would say to Brad, okay, I want you to take a look at the roster and everybody has to make the team again. Pretend these guys aren't on the team. Who do you want back? Who do you want? You got to start at ground zero because, guys, they are the forever 500s.
Yeah, I mean, it's
everybody's on notice, and I would get the market value of everybody on that team. That's what I would do. And then go from there and say, Brad, it's your gig, man. Sink or swim.
Yeah, you're just not going to get enough for Tatum. Like, nobody's going to give you equal value. There isn't.
Yeah, okay, fine. But I would still look. Both you guys know this. Paul Pierce got a kick in the ass when he was about to be traded. Remember, they had that horrible season. He was on the block. He heard he was going to be traded. It changed him as a player.
Give Tatum a point guard. That's all I'll say. Give him a point guard.
I'm going to throw a name out, but this reflects bias. Sabonis.
Yeah, listen, I love Sabonis. Would you do Jaylen Brown in a deal?
I do Brown for Sabonis in a heartbeat. Well, I'm suggesting the big one.
Who? Tatum for Sabonis?
I'm just saying, and maybe they throw in something else. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there. I think he is a treasure.
I do too. I love Sabonis.
Well, how about
you talk about a killer. He's a killer, an absolute killer who makes people better because he can pass. He rebounds the hell out of it. Yes, I still don't think that solves your biggest issue.
It's the bonus of the final month of last season, which going unnoticed. That guy, I take him over Jason Tatum right now. That there's a bonus of the final month of last season.
I don't think they're any better. I just don't think. I think you're talking about the same record.
No, but it's a different.
How about this? Is Sabonis and Jaylen Brown better than Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
Maybe marginally right now. But I don't. Again, then if you throw in a point guard in free agency, then you have something.
Right.
Like, I think we can do whatever we want right now, unless we find a way to get these guys a point guard. It isn't going to matter. They're still a 500-ish team.
I think that's a good.
That's all.
That's fair.
All right.
Well, it's on the owner. Guys, thank you so much. Oh, real quick, don't forget, I have a movie out and a book, The Arm and the Fall.
All right.
And by the way, and our buddy Dan Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Fun read. Just a blast.
I gotta read it. Yeah.
It's fun. It's like, oh my God, the glory days. And always Bob Ryan's Scribe. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. And if you haven't read it, you really should, because it's a fantastic book. Gentlemen, until next week. And always remember, don't look up.